Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. Well, hello, Allison.
Hello, how we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Ooh, Allison is just when I'm in trouble growing up, usually.
Well, you're not in trouble tonight, so.
Oh, good to hear.
Hey, it's May 1st now, so I mean when we're recording, so we're right in the thick of softball season at this point. We actually have good weather and warm breezes when we play the games at night. So in the Northeast.
Yes.
So got a scenario I'm going to set up for you and let me know. I mean, you can take it different ways, how you would have handled it, how you'd handle it now. I'm just going to give you the scenario. So I'm your current coach, whether I've been your coach for 2 years, 1 year, just since this season. And we're talking at hitting practice or fielding practice, and I say, hey, here's what I've been noticing, and I'd like you to do this. So what goes through your mind? Like, my old coach says I should do this, or my dad says I should do this, or my mom, or do you say, wow, that's a different perspective, I'm going to think about that?
I like where this is going already. I can read what you're going for. So I think it's interesting because me personally, I always took the feedback, right? I was like, all right, whatever feedback I'm given, let me self-reflect on it and see if there's any value I can take out of it. I think a lot of times what girls struggle with is they have that one coach they rely on, which is awesome. So when someone says something that not necessarily contradicts, but may come off a little different than that, they say, well, that's not what my coach says. And I think that's a really dangerous path to go down because the thing I tell my players all the time now that I'm a coach, I want to help you. That is my number one priority is to help you. And coaches out there, like that should be your number one priority. And if it's not, then that's a whole separate conversation, but it should be to help your players. If somebody else says something to help them, I'm happy. Right. And I think coaches need to kind of understand that too. Like, if it's not my words that end up clicking for you with that light bulb going off, that's okay because it still helped you. And I think coaches need to do a better job helping their players understand that so that players can understand to better take feedback from more than one person, right? It's not, I don't think coaching should be territorial, right? Like, I don't think it should be, you're my player and you can only listen to me. It's my way or the highway. I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. And I think sometimes that is what's passed down from coaches, which makes players hesitant to actively listen to everybody else.
Love
I know
this.
I just threw a lot at you. So
No. So I'm going to start with this. I think I've mentioned it before. My biggest pet peeve is when I hear coaches say, my team, my girls, my players. No. It's their team. You're just there coaching them. Or I'll even settle for our team, right?
yeah,
So it's the same thing. When coaches have that attitude, you hear the players say, my coach says. No, it's your instructor or your current leader. I mean, yes, it is your coach, but they're not the only one on the planet that has information that can help you succeed. And when I first meet new players, when we start in our open gyms, from a high school perspective, I can't talk from any other perspective. First thing I'm always asking is, oh, what are you working on? What is your favorite drill? And then we go from there. I don't say, you know what you should do.
right.
Like, there's no ownership. Like you said a phrase similar. It takes a village almost. Like, there's plenty of people that can help you on your path. There's no one person. It's not just your parents. It's not just one coach. Just be open to different perspectives and lessons involved, and then try to find what works for you. Now, easier said than done. Again, you're the player. What do you say about that?
Well, I think about this scenario that comes to mind. Why do colleges have multiple coaches? Why can't you just have one?
Mm.
Because multiple people say, like, different people say things different ways. And the way Coach A might say it resonates different with me than the way Coach B said it. And they're telling me the same exact thing, but one coach's verbiage just resonates with me more. And like, that's what the player coach relationship is. I mean, when I was in college, two of my coaches could have said the same thing, and one I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And another, and it could be different on any given day of that makes sense to me. I'm confused by that one. Like, I think it's just so interesting, the dynamic of it all. And I think coaches just need to remain open to that too, of am I portraying that message to my players? Do they know that it's okay to listen to other feedback that they're given? And I've had instances too where, I'm giving a lesson and someone says, oh, well, someone told me this one time. And instead of just being like, well, that's wrong, I'm like, oh, well, that's a different way of saying it. But what they're talking about is really, X verbiage that I use with you. So that's how I want you to think about it. And they're like, oh, okay. So it's how do you connect between different coaches instead of saying, I'm right, everybody else is wrong.
Well, one of my favorites is when I hear a player say knob to the ball, right?
Mm.
And before I say anything, I have them explain it, because maybe I'm okay with that after they explain it. It's just, it's just an almost an inside joke with us, and it's just a phrase, but let them explain it before I go with what I would do. Or no, 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 I don't like that phrase. Well, it's thrown around a lot. So maybe it's okay. But I think you have to let them explain themselves first, the players.
Well, I agree. And it's a huge communication thing because if I'm a player and let's say, I think my travel coach is like that way or the highway, like everybody else is wrong. And I go into high school season and I already think that way. Like I'm not even going to hear out what my high school coach has to say because I already know everything. Or it could be vice versa, like whatever scenario that you're in. I think, if your high school coach comes up and says something to you, say, hey, this is my understanding of it. What are you seeing that's different? Or can you help me understand? Can you explain that to me? And just said, instead of saying, yep, I know. Well, my coach says do it this way. Okay, like let's just have a little bit better dialogue. It goes for everything in life. If someone comes up to you and says, have you ever thought about doing it this way? No, somebody else told me to do it another way. I'm not going to change my mind. Like that's just not how life works. So I think there's no harm ever in being open to someone else having a suggestion for you. There's no harm in hearing someone out ever.
Right there, it's okay for the player to give feedback. Because,
Mhm.
for example, I mean, the whole point of sports is having it be a platform to advocate for yourself and to work hard and chase goals and dreams. Same thing with your career. And if you have a boss as an employer, you need to advocate for yourself. And if the boss is saying do something, hopefully you have a good relationship where the leader's like, well, what's your feedback? And then when you give it, maybe you guys pivot in that direction. And so it doesn't mean anybody's right necessarily. I think what we're trying to get down to is just keep open communication and keep open to new ideas. And then the tricky part is trying to make it all work for you and your specific journey.
Yeah. I think too, like if you're at a practice and your coach or one of your teammates says four pieces of advice to you. If you take one of them and it makes you better, that's a win, right? Like it doesn't have to be everything, but if you go into a situation or a setting in life or in sports and you're already closed-minded, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you're not even open to hearing what everybody else has to say, I really think you're doing yourself a disservice because you're now closed off to growth opportunity. So I think that's just something that's really important to think about is are you approaching situations with an open mindset to be able to grow, to be able to receive feedback? Because if you're not, what's going to happen is people are just going to stop giving it to you. And then you're going to say, well, no one helps me. No one gives me advice. Okay, well, how do you respond to the advice that they give you? Are you someone they want to give advice to?
I'm gonna take it from the perspective of dad for a minute. I mean, obviously, I was involved in both you and your sister's softball careers. sometimes in the dugout, sometimes just through individual practices, right? When you went away to college, I think the biggest change is when you came home over the breaks and summers and holidays to hit, I was no longer your coach. All of a sudden, you were telling me what you were working on. And I had to keep an open mind to say, I didn't say, well, that's not what I think you should do.
Right.
You know, you have three coaches, sometimes four coaches at the collegiate level helping you. All of a sudden, I became a sponge and an open book and adapted, and it's really helped me grow as well as a coach. So it can work both ways. It's okay to be secure enough in what you're doing to know that other people can help you grow. You don't have to know everything. It's impossible.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about, going home for the summer was you would say from your perspective, like, hey, I see you doing this different. Tell me about it. Talk to me
Yes.
about it. And by me explaining it to you, I was learning it better. Like having to say it verbally and show someone else and talk about it all the time was actually helping me learn it and making it muscle memory. I think sometimes you can always tell if a girl is closed-minded because you'll go, "What are you working on?" And they're like, "Oh, I just like," they get all defensive and they just
Yeah.
don't even want to talk about it. It's like, are you defensive or are you not confident in explaining it? Because if you're not confident in explaining it, how confident are you really in what you're doing? I just think that's an interesting dynamic too.
If you can't explain it, you can't do it, or you have trouble doing it. You
Right.
know, I'm also lucky in the effect I grew up a golfer, and to me, the golf swing's a lot like a softball swing because it's never perfect. You're always tweaking it, and there's different ways you can do it. There's key points where your barrel or your golf club has to be in certain spots to make contact or perform. But sometimes it's based on your size, your height, your weight, your approach, your bat speed. And it's okay to listen to what other people think. And then again, try to merge it all together.
Yeah, I think sports is a crazy just example of this too, of if you're doing something and you're so confident in it that you're not open to change and you're not doing this, but you're struggling a ton, it's like, at what point do you say, hey, what you're doing is not really working, so maybe we should try something else? And it's tough, right? Because, when you're changing things and you're growing through it, you got to fail through it a little bit. And I 100% support that. And I have examples of that throughout my own career. But I also have had conversations of like, hey, what you're doing is not working, so let's try something else. Like, I think that that's really important too, to not get so stuck in your ways that it's just like, no, this is the right way. And I know as a coach for me, like based on my experiences, I always ask girls, I'm like, do you understand what we're marching towards? Like, do you understand, yes, we're making this big change, but do you understand why? Because if you don't understand why and you don't understand the end goal, how are you gonna be motivated to get there? Or you're just going to revert back to what you were doing before. So I think it's like you got to, one, truly believe in it, give it time to work itself out, but also be open to feedback while you're trying to work through something new.
Yeah, the end goal is a big one. I think I mean some of it can be a trap. You really good athletes and really dedicated athletes and people in general want to learn, want to get better, want to grow. But you have to you have to have awareness and you have to look back sometimes to see if the lessons you're getting, if the mentorship you're getting is actually working, right? Like it shouldn't just be like buffering like a computer. At some point you've got to move forward. And that's important. Not it's not about loyalty, it's about growth and getting better. And a good coach, if I was your hitting coach or pitching coach, well, I mean, you don't pitch, that'd be a whole nother
Right.
story. But if you're not getting better and then you say, hey coach, I've been going to some lessons with so and so. Here's what they're saying. I should be okay with that. I shouldn't get defensive. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's a trap for a lot of players. Coaches get very defensive when players want to move on or try other ideas. But are your ideas helping?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a two-way street, honestly, because it's, if you have a girl who comes in and the only time she hits is once a week when she sees you, that's different. Like, are you putting in the work outside of it? And if you're not, are you just saying, well, she's not helping me because I'm not getting better? It's like, well, you're hitting once a week and it's only 30 minutes when you're seeing me. But to your point too, like sometimes maybe the relationship just doesn't click. Like it can't be for everybody. And I think that's, the point as a coach where you got to say, hey, like I support you. I want what's best for you. And I'll always tell them, like, if a girl comes in to hit with me and they're like, I heard this piece of advice and I want to try it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. How do you feel about it? Like, how's it working for you? Talk me through it so that I can get up to speed on, maybe something we're tweaking or changing. And I think too, like, one thing I'll always ask hitters when we're hitting is before I change something, I'm like, are you willing to try something? I literally ask them that. And they're like, yeah, for sure. I'm like, okay, awesome. Then we're doing this together. It's like their verbal commitment that, okay, we're going to try something new. We don't care about the result for this minute, but we both just told each other that we're okay with trying something new. So it's like creating that space of, being ready to grow through something.
I like all that. That's why, I mean, it comes down to communication, like you were just touching base with again. And that's why I like having convos with players, because the more you talk about what they think they're doing, what they want to do, what goal, who's helping them, all of a sudden the ownership and accountability is on them, and you're helping them, you're coaching them. You're not the boss of how they perform and how they play. And then, are you willing to try something? I know specifically there's a lot of drills we do, and then every now and then I add something else, and I'm like, so what I want you to do pregame is pick which three work for you, right?
Yep.
So players could be in pregame could be working on two or three different drills. They don't have to all do the same thing. I don't understand why when you're helping kids, they all do the same drills all the time. I'll have days where I introduce them, but they don't have to all do them. You got to
Right.
find what works. And that, again, back to communication.
Yes. And on another piece of communication, I think when we talk about feedback and being open to what coaches have to say, are you a player that seeks feedback? Because that's totally different too. I mean, I know it's hard, as a coach, sometimes like we try to give enough feedback, not enough. We don't want to give you feedback every pitch. We don't want to give you like too little feedback. And it depends for every player and what type of player they are. But I know as a player, if you come up to me and you're like, hey, I'm struggling with this, like, I don't know if girls know this, but we can't see what's going on inside your head. Like, we can't see it. And I think that's one of the toughest player coach dynamics. So if you're struggling, like, come ask for help. There is nothing wrong with that to say, I don't feel comfortable in the box. I don't have confidence right now. I feel like this with my hands. What do you see? Can you help me? Like, I think by players asking for feedback, it immediately creates that, like, one, I know you have the want to change. I know you're open to feedback. And now it's creating this awesome communication and dialogue between the both of us. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to ask you a question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but when you're in a lesson and giving a player feedback, what's something they say that makes you realize they're not going to listen to you? Is there something they come back with? Like, I have something in mind.
Um, I'm trying to think.
Like a lot of times I'll hear, okay, got it. Yep. Okay. Gotcha. My bad.
That's
Like
fair.
when they're quick to make a comment back, and instead of, you can see them processing it. And then
Well,
I'll
okay,
say,
so
any
yeah.
questions? And then they always have a question. When they don't have questions, I always feel like they're not really absorbing it.
Yeah, that just sparked something for me because you can tell the difference between the players who I say something, they're making direct eye contact with me and they like start doing it slowly, or it's like they never took their eyes off the tee, they're already mid-load and like they're going to hit again. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, so I think it's just that process of like give it a chance, like if you're on a team and you have a coach, like they're trying to coach you. They're trying to help you. And I think one of the biggest things is before you go and say, I'm not open to feedback from this coach, if they say something and you don't agree with it, there's a respectful way to go about that. You can say, like if you said something to me right now and in my head, I'm like, no way that's true. Like, no way that's accurate. I could say, hey, like, can we talk more about that? Because from what I've learned in the past, like, this is why I do it this way and for this result. So I'm just curious to pick your brain a little bit on, what your thoughts are and where you learned that and can we dive into it?
that comes down to culture, because a lot of places don't necessarily welcome that sort of response from the
100%.
player. Yeah,
100%.
and and I'll say it 100 times. The joke is I've never played the game, and it doesn't mean I don't have perspective and vision and observations and coaching I can provide. But sometimes we've joked in our household when I give advice, it's just not that easy sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
And that's okay. But you have to have those little inside jokes to go along with it, to have the culture be free enough where you can go back and forth, not disrespectfully, but players should always have the right to ask questions, but coaches should always have the right to provide feedback, and it could be respectfully absorbed too.
I agree. And for any coach listening out there, if you feel like you're not open to that dialogue, I guess I'd ask you why. Because to me, like that's the number one best thing about sports is creating a culture where you can have that dialogue. And I think like the best teams you can see have that dialogue. Like you watch any D1 softball, the coach is talking with their players like between innings and it's a back and forth. It's not one talking at the other. It's truly a dynamic. So I think that's just kind of an interesting from a coaching perspective. If you're listening to this and you're like, no way I'd let a player say that to me. I just think that's a little bit interesting.
Well, and one litmus test is when I hear people say, my girls, my team, like I said earlier, if you're saying that all the time, I don't think the team feels like, usually you're that alpha dog where people don't feel they can communicate back with you and have any type of discourse that may be disagreeable. When I hear people say our team or these girls did this or this team did this, you watch. There's no case study. I don't have any
Right.
statistics about it. But if you think about that, when you hear people talk, usually you can tell right away what type of culture it is.
Well, you know what this whole conversation is reminding me of? I think we all know that one person where everything you say, they're like, well, I do it like this. And I do like, we all know that one person. This is kind of like the sports version of that.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think it's good. I don't know again what we solved tonight, but I think we brought some things out into the open that could lead to good conversations between either parents and players or coaches and players or coaches and coaches or players and players.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot. That was impressive. You just listed all the,
I
yeah.
couldn't repeat that again. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think at the end of the day, just stay open to whatever feedback people has because worst case, don't use it. Best case, it helps you. Like there's no negative in that situation. The only negative is if you're not open to it because then there's no upside. There's no opportunity.
Well, I mean, the one downside could be is if every time someone tells you something, you spend hours trying to do that. And you're like the squirrel looking for the shiny object. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right,
and
right.
that's not what we're saying at all. Basically, there's no downside to just absorb it, think about it, and
Yes.
right. Yeah. Just wanted to be clear quick. So, all
Yeah.
right. Hey, this was a good one. I know we got a couple, we haven't had many guests lately, but we have a couple really good topics we just enjoy talking about. So, I mean,
Yeah,
this thing has no timeline, so we'll have plenty of future episodes with guests. So,
definitely. And if there's someone out there who wants to hear about something specific, definitely let us know. So we are open to feedback.
well, what I think, no,
Yeah.
no, we're definitely open to feedback. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great night.
All right. See ya.
Bye.